Welcome to the next section. This is setting up the Raspberry Pi. I think if anyone has a Raspberry Pi, you already probably have been through these steps. If this is your first time, I'll try and give you as best of an introduction of how to go about it. Okay, right, so what you have here is just roughly the steps that we'll need to take. We'll install Raspbian on an SD card, set up SSH so that you can, what's called headless, so that you can use Putty to SSH into it. And then I generally like to fix the IP address, and then there's some tools that will be helpful. Alright, so this is I use Raspbian Buster Lite. The Raspberry Pi Foundation has moved to Pi OS, so it's really just the next step up. It doesn't really make any difference, so you could use this Pi OS Lite here. You could even use the desktop version. If you have a monitor and keyboard and everything, it doesn't actually really make a difference. The whole idea is to really later on is to be able to copy the or to install Docker, and obviously to copy the Docker Compose file, which will then just bring up the containers, and ultimately you'll then have a server that will do everything that's needed for the D1 minis. Okay, so once you've downloaded the image, you can use this Baleno Etcher. It's very popular. It actually does the job very well. You put the SSD card into your laptop or some adapter, and then you would pick the image, you would pick the drive, and you would say flash. It would run along, flash it. When it's finished, it would tell you it's done. Okay, and then the next step you would want to do then, these are the tools. So the two tools you generally want to use is this Putty and WinSCP. Putty is a SSH client, so it allows you to actually through your network go to the IP address of your Raspberry Pi and log into it in a terminal, and then you can issue commands and do whatever you need to. WinSCP is obviously, as I said, I'm working on a Windows machine, so WinSCP is a Windows version of a secure copy, which is a Linux tool. So what this allows you to do is to copy files from your Windows drive across into the Raspberry Pi, and you'll need this for the Docker Compose file. Okay, this is just a short little video showing you some of the websites as I showed you in the slides. This is the Raspberry Pi's website. You know, they have obviously, you can see have all the different type of distributions you get. So again, I think once you get into the Raspberry Pi, depending on what you want to use it for, you can have it as a desktop. You can run it as a media center. In this case, we'll use this. You can use this Pi OS Lite. I used Buster Lite. That was the version just before this, sort of September this year, so this has only recently come out. Okay, then this is Baleno Etcher. Once again, you can see here, you select an image, select a drive, and you flash, and then so you can pretty much see it's quite amazing. Got many versions for Windows, portable, even if you're running on a Mac. Alright, then this is Putty. So this is a tool that's been around forever, used very extensively in the IT industry. You know, basically, because anytime you have a Linux machine and you want to SSH into it, then this is what you'd use. You can see you have different distributions, 32-bit, 64-bit. Okay, yeah, so that was that. And then this is WinSCP. So once again, it allows you to copy files across from your local Windows directory into the Raspberry Pi or any Linux machine for that matter. So you can actually see this is pretty much the website. Alright, I think that's for that at the moment. Okay, what you would need to do once you have copied that, you would copy the SSH file across into the SD card, boot it, and then you would then use Putty to get to a terminal like this. Once you're at that point, this is the way you would do a fixed IP address. You type this command, sudo nano etc dhcpd.conf, and then you will get this file here. You would then go sort of down to the bottom. All of this will be commented out. In other words, it will have a hash in front of it, so you uncomment these lines here and you change it to the address that you want your Pi to sit at. In my case, like I showed you, is 165. That is your router's, what would you call it, the gateway of the router, and then the domain name server will be the same. Alright, okay, so once you've done this, you know, at this point now you're pretty much in control of your Raspberry Pi. In the next lecture I will show you, or the next section, I will show you how to then, using the command line, install Docker, and obviously then use the compose file to get the containers up and running. And so yeah, I'll get to that in the next section.